with the Citizen.
This is Conversations with the Citizen. I am your host, Tia Carol Jones. I'm here today with Dr. Maurice Swinney.
Yes, yeah.
Chief Innovation Officer at Chicago Beyond. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes, my name is Maurice. I'm originally from New Orleans. That's
Okay.
home. So if you ever want to talk about food, if you ever have a food show,
Oh, just wait
listen,
till after we
you
finish.
call me back. Yeah, we'll talk.
Yes.
I started my teaching career in 2001. Graduated from Xavier University, HBCU in New Orleans. Was a teacher, assistant principal, became a principal when I moved to Chicago in 2012. And then I had the great blessing of being the first chief equity officer for Chicago Public Schools. One of my best jobs. And then decided I needed to take a break, took a pause in my career after 21 years, and then ready to be back doing the work that I care about most, working and serving with young people and being in community. So that's a little bit about me. We can get on to all the fun stuff when we talk about cooking.
Okay. So for people who don't know, what is Chicago Beyond?
Yeah, Chicago Beyond was started, I love to say this, by a former Chicago principal, Liz Dozier, who deeply was invested in the work within her community at Finger High School, was a great principal, and wanted to do all the things that we want, make sure young people have resources and opportunity. And so she started Chicago Beyond, and the whole intention around it was centering freedom. Like, how do we think about freedom as not only like this aspiration for the future, but how do we live in it right now? And what are the ways we can draw resources, talk about our mindsets, like really push ourselves on how do we serve young people better, and also do the right systems change work that's necessary in order to do it, right? And, I think the biggest thing is freedom, and freedom now. I think that is the best way to describe Chicago Beyond, and resourcing that, the work that it takes to make that freedom happen.
Why do you think the work Chicago Beyond does is so important?
Yeah, because it's about young people. I remember being a young person. I remember all of my students. I remember all of their dreams, aspirations, and desires. I knew what they wanted, whether it was being an entrepreneur, whether it was being a teacher, whether, just everybody has a dream, right? And how do we move from sort of the dream deferred to actualizing things? And what Chicago Beyond is really about is, like, how do we do that for real? And how do we do it with young people and the community that's around them? And I think centering those who are most impacted by structural racism and all the things that we know are true, how to leave us stuck there, but say, okay, so what do we need to do? And one of the things Chicago Beyond does is invest in Black people, invest in organizations that do this work all the time, right? And, on the way here, I was thinking, like, Liz is really trying to take the hustle out of people finding funding to do the work. Because you can search for a lot of funding, you can write a lot of grants, you can do a lot of things, and you can be exhausted by that process. And then when it's time to do the work you love, it feels taxing. And so far, Chicago Beyond, I think, has invested at least $40 million already into Black organizations, and not making it like this very tough process, but really doing what some people call trust-based philanthropy. Like, how do we just trust that people know what to do and not make them jump through the hoops to get the resources to do it?
So, you were recently named Chief Innovation Officer. In this role, how will you ensure Chicago Beyond continues its work to invest in hyper-local organizations and supports local community leaders?
Yeah, I would say first that being the Chief Equity Officer in CPS, I had a beautiful experience of building an equity framework, like driving change within the system. And so that gave me insights into all the systems that are impacting young people: transportation, housing, living in places where there's what some people call food deserts, like all the things. And one of the things that I think is important for me is like listening, learning, and continuing to build together. And a part of that is like, how do I understand people's experiences more outside of the system? Not just the education system, all the systems, right? And how do I bring all those voices and all those perspectives to create things that are supportive of the advancement of young people thriving within their community and to do all the things that they want to do? I have a lot of ideas, but ideas mean, for me, they don't mean much if it's not a collective idea with a collective identity. And so I'm really excited to do what I did in CPS. Get out, talk to people, listen, and say, okay, so how can we do this together in real time and really make things happen? I hold space for so many young people and all of their ideas and those I've lost over the years, right? It's a real experience. And, Liz as well, like we want the best. And I've never seen young people be bad. What I have seen is young people be under-resourced and have barriers to their success. And that is what I want to continue to disrupt in this role.
What are some of the initiatives Chicago Beyond has created, and how do they benefit young people in the city of Chicago?
Yeah, I think my favorite, I knew things that was, that were happening as I was joining Chicago Beyond, because I've been a part of the work with Liz for a long time. But I think the highlight of it all is the Rapid Response Fund, and which was really about, during the pandemic, how do we talk to the people we know and ask those people which organizations, which community-based organizations, which centering Black excellence, centering the needs of young people, are doing the work in Chicago, and how do we get money to them, right? And a lot of work has gone into that. And, I wish I could tell you, it's somewhere on Chicago Beyond's website. You can see the list of a whole bunch of organizations, some that, we know are really out there doing everything from like feeding people from the day-to-day, mentorship, but also like those who are pushing back on what systemic change should look like within the city. I think it's a really, really dope way of like re-centering how philanthropy can work. And a part of that is getting out of the way and not making all of these meetings and all of these documents and all of this stuff that people have to sort of jump through hoops. The Rapid Response Fund, I think, is the best. And then the thing that I think sort of sits above that rapid response is something called the Abundance Campaign, which pushes on these wealthy philanthropic foundations and organizations who have a lot of capital, have a lot of resources, to make commitments to funding Black organizations and community. And so more people have signed up it's the Victoria Crown, the MacArthur Foundation, of course, Chicago Beyond, to really make a declaration to support Black people who have been one of the farthest groups from opportunity in this country. And so I think both of those things are my personal favorites.
Okay. How can residents in the city help support the work that Chicago Beyond is doing?
Yeah, I think first, I think the easiest thing for all of us is to, no matter who you are, think about how you see young people. When you see them, how do you react to them? When you see them, do you smile? I think that's the sort of low-hanging fruit, which is our own sort of mindsets and bias, right? About how we interpret young people. I think that's first, and anyone can do that without cost. Smiling at young people, telling them have a good day at school, telling them to do their best is free. The second thing, I think, on our website and even on Twitter, so many ways of tapping in, like, even if you know organizations who are doing great work, share those things. We have our contact information online because we do want to continue to expand. And, we want to also continue hyper-local investments within a specific community. So if you know of a lot of great organizations who are all doing work within a particular community, reach out to us. I don't remember our email address. I'm going to learn that and come back. Who we know are out there in their communities every day doing good stuff.
Okay. And so you were a teacher. You worked in CPS. In interacting with young people, what is the thing that they need the most?
Care, and care is called, for me, care is love in action. I think the missed opportunity for us, like I would always say, the first week of school is about handshakes, hugs, and high fives, right? How do you show me that we're all human, that you respect who I am? I think that is, once again, like the sort of low-hanging fruit. Sometimes they need to be heard and not spoken to. So I would find, you know, as principal, you hold a lot of power in the school, right? And sometimes I knew when Maurice wanted to tell people what to do, and I would have students kind of give me that look. Because, you know, we had good relationships in my school, but you can tell when somebody's like, stop talking to me. And we have to move away from always saying to moving more toward listening. Because sometimes listening itself is just another way for a person to speak aloud and to process things, right? And to come to their own conclusions and ideas. I think that's first. The second thing, I think we need to really pay attention to the policies that are in place on systems level, especially in the world of justice, right? What are the ways in which we are criminalizing Black children? And how do we have really clear policy targets about what need to change? And there are a lot of people who are doing this work, and once again, bringing them together, I think, is important. But nothing beats respecting a young person as being an individual, whether you like their hair or not, whether you like the way they dress or not, whether you like the way they speak or not. Because they breathe, they deserve us to be fair and treat them with love and care.
Before we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like our audience to know?
I think I'm a great cook.
Okay.
You know, I've been making this joke. I love oxtails, and then I'm gonna stop talking about food. I'm just hungry because I didn't eat breakfast this morning. I love to cook, but cooking is also a way to gather your friends and gather people together and talk about really important issues. And so one of the commitments I'm making, my birthday's coming up, and I'm like, in what ways do I want to use what we know works, right? We do it in churches and community events and like, how do we bring the people together with purpose? And I think that is one thing I can keep thinking about for my personal life, because that's also about my own physical and our collective well-being. So, you know, we're now coming out of the pandemic. I don't know what the proper term is for all that is right now. But if there's opportunity to like bring your friends, bring your family together to love on each other, I think we need that now more than ever, so we can all continue to move through this world together. I think that, you know, I'm gonna figure out what I'm cooking. I might cook gumbo or oxtails, but I think there's a way, honestly, to just break bread and have fun like we know we used to do.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Great. I think that's a perfect note to end on.
Thank you.
So much.
Thank you for having me.
Remember to make plans to join us again next week for Conversations with the Citizen, the place where real